Welcome to the Modern Hippie podcast, where we'll be exploring all of my favorite boundary-pushing people and topics surrounding consciousness, psychedelics, mental performance, functional medicine, living in alignment, and so much more. I'm your host, Barrett Perlman, a former pro wakeboarder turned body worker, energy healer, and well, a modern hippie. And I'm so glad you're here. All right, welcome back to the Modern Hippie podcast. I am so excited to introduce my guest today, whose name is Tina Orlando. Thank you so much for joining me. Tina is
fabulous.
You are a hypnotherapist. You're my hypnotherapist.
Yes,
what else do you do? What else do you
do? So I'm actually a Pilates instructor.
No way! I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is a body-mind connection. So I do a lot of Pilates, and in the process of that, I add in a lot of hypnotherapy. So
cool.
It kind of works well together. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really rad. So you and I met in, I think, April of the pandemic, April of 2020.
Yes.
I was like losing my shit over someone I was trying to date at the time. And one of my good friends, Josh, was in school at the Hypnotherapy Institute. And he was like, you should get partnered with someone who's practicing that's still a student there. And so I applied, and you were who I got partnered with.
Yeah, and the universe is interesting.
Yeah, because I was at this place too where I was in need of therapy, but I've been in therapy since I was 8 years old. So I was like, it's not a lot of talk therapy that I haven't already done yet or don't already do on myself, as well as I was looking for someone who was going to be sort of into the metaphysical and maybe already knew what energy healing was and stuff. So I didn't have to constantly be explaining myself and explaining the things. And I just miraculously got you, and you are all the things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's, in the pandemic, you find a lot of people, you can't help to be affected by what's going on in the outside world affecting your world, and your perception, and, the change going on outside of you in the world affects the changes that go on inside of you. And the beauty of, not an HMI plug, but the beauty of it is it allows for something more than, and hypnosis in general, something more than CBT, even though we are trained in, CBT, DBT, ACT, and pieces of depth in Jungian psychology. So you get a well-rounded thing, and intuition and metaphysical, and
there you landed. What is CBT? What is CBT and ACT?
Acceptance cognitive therapy and commitment therapy. That's ACT. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's just a measured amount of time to reach your goals, and that's mostly what you get, because that's what insurances want to pay for. So you get the start and finish time. DBT is dialect behavioral therapy.
Okay.
And that's what most people go through is CBT and DBT.
Okay. But also there was a time when they wouldn't pay for that. So the insurance wouldn't pay for that. So progress is slow, even if we did just go back 50 years after the Roe v. Wade overturn.
Progress is very slow, considering psychology in a whole has only been psychology, not a science, a science instead of a philosophy for only 100 years. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what drew you to this field?
What draws most people, their own grief, their own strife, their own struggle. Having had many years of searching for something that feels right. having sat in therapy like everybody else and knowing that it's not really working, I needed something more. And when you find yourself going through one of those transitions in life where it changes who you are, large
Yeah.
amounts of grief, traumas, it changes who you are, and you have to learn how to deal. So you can pay $10,000 for CBT, talk therapy and spend all this time. But in reality, for me, this wouldn't have happened to me if I wasn't supposed to share it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So not just metaphysical, intuitive stuff, but
Yeah.
trauma. Trauma's the thing, right?
Trauma is
So,
wild.
well, it's all stored in the body, and your brain is trying to catch up to your body, and that's why it keeps erupting. That's why it keeps erupting the way it does.
I know I keep struggling with mine still erupting.
Guess what? Let me cut the chase for you. Everybody is doing that.
Yeah.
It's, the everflow.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the beauty of hypnotherapy is like something you said to me the other day. So right now I'm going through trying to heal what I've determined to be past trauma from a relationship from 14 years ago and my response patterns in relationships ever since. And I was so excited to tell you how I found this thing called Neurocycle with Dr. Caroline Leaf. And I'm going to do all this work for 63 days to like rewire my brain. And you were like, you want to do it faster? Why don't we just do a little hypnotherapy and we can start chipping away at that much faster. Mm-hmm. And I felt wildly better after that therapy session.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing the Neurocycle. Shame on me, but I have been showing up better.
Sorry to the 63 days, but I don't have that kind of time, and neither does anybody else when they're suffering. So
right.
And really
I feel a little bad. I turned a couple people onto that book when I'm like, you could just be doing hypnotherapy. But I also know I'm pretty suggestible. And so what does that mean when a client is suggestible or not suggestible or less suggestible?
Less suggestible is the way to break it. Like there's no way, what does it mean? It means that you take in information easily. Sometimes it means that you're walking around mostly in hypnosis because of who you are. Probably not you, but you might be super suggestible to me because we've been working together for so long. So, and we have a rapport where some other people, they have to build a lot of rapport. And being suggestible also comes down to the want and need of it. Some people don't want to change. They are really stuck in their comfortable pattern. And they're also stuck in saying, why is this happening? So it comes down to want, desire, and belief system. So your suggestibility is built on a lifetime of patterns. And as you probably know at this point, it's created by your primary caregiver. And whoever that is that you see, that part of you is created first, and then comes your behavior and your sexuality, not in preference, sexuality being behavior of how you are in a relationship. And that is based on secondary caregiver and your peers. Because as children, we are literal, somebody said to me the other day, literal narcissists. As children, want, need, that's all we know, little narcissists. And then we spend the rest of our adult life trying not to be narcissists, even though that's kind of how we started off. So just a funny joke, but
that is hilarious. And so what happens when you put someone into a state of hypnosis? I know a lot of people argue with me. They're like, well, is she going to make me buck like a chicken and like do all these things that I don't want to do? How do I know what they're going to do? And they're like, that is not hypnotherapy at all.
Actually, it's not. It's actually anesthetic, or some type of drug that puts you under, and then you do weird things like sodium pentothal. Hypnosis in general is not something that you lose absolute control. I cannot make you do anything out of your moral compass, first of all. You know, my integrity is on the line every time I put somebody in hypnosis to not do anything against their will. And I would never do that. My integrity is intact. Furthermore, there's not very many people you can do that to. Somebody that's walking around in a deep state of hypnosis, which is also known as somnambulism. Those people are the ones you see on a stage performance, you know, quacking like a duck. That is not what we do. I'm not just the standard hypnotherapist. It's more of a clinical hypnotherapist, because it's, you know, we're practicing on the theory that we do no harm. We're not going to do something like that. Yes, it is possible to certain types of people,
Gotcha.
but not just the general public.
Okay. So how do you put someone in a state of hypnosis?
It's an overload of information. The technical term is message units. So there is a process that we use to do that. But what it basically is that we're opening the gate between your conscious waking reality of, you know, decision making, willpower, motivation, and there's a line there that we push through into the subconscious that we can access the knowns, the positive and the negatives, the pleasure, pain, you know, sensory area of the subconscious mind. Your mind being more than just brain function. That's just an organ. So,
Right.
And how we do that is the overload of information. I can't give you away all my secrets.
No, you can't. And I'm trying to reflect. I'm like, I don't feel like you're overloading me with it. I feel like you're overloading me with peace and calm when you do this.
Well, overload, not necessarily a bad sense of the word. It is peace and calm that we are overloading you with, or positive suggestions. But it has to do with what you're taking in information. So to break it down, the first 10 minutes of any true clinical hypnosis is that progressive, where you are relaxing that person's body and their mind is staying alert because they're comprehending what you're saying. So then there's the dichotomy between, wait a minute, I'm completely relaxed, but yet my mind is super clear all of a sudden, and it clears and it keeps clearing because you're stepping from the conscious mind into the subconscious mind. That's basically what's happening. And opening up a different part of the mind that houses all your information, so it doesn't forget anything ever in your whole entire life. Whether you can access it or not is a different story.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, because I've told people, you know, there are times when I do hypnosis with you where I remember the entire session. I remember everything, you know, so it's like, obviously you're not going to make me do anything I don't want to do. I'm completely present the whole time. And then there's other times where I swear I've gone to sleep, but the second you count backwards from like 10 to 0 and snap or whatever, like I'm back wide awake. Like, how did that happen? And so
Right.
what is that state?
That's a very deep state of hypnosis.
Okay.
There, you know, Cappascinian theory is the theory that I work out of. I'm not Ericksonian, I'm Cappascinian. It's the difference between, let's just say, Freud and Jung.
Gotcha.
So Cappascinian theory is that there are so many levels of hypnosis depth. That level is a deep level of hypnosis where, yes, you actually do remember, but you're remembering what's important, what's actually feeding you. You're not going to remember if I said "and" 300 times. You're going to remember that I said,
That's great.
you know, the positive suggestions of feeling better, feeling more confident, more self-esteem, because you're building from the inside. I'm sorry.
Oh, I might have lost you there for a second, but that's okay.
Okay. Which part did you not hear? Maybe it's just a state of hypnosis that you're in right now.
Yeah, you hypnotized me already. You didn't even snap. You didn't even count backwards from 5.
Well, it's kind of like being in a movie theater is a really good analogy. When you're in a movie theater, you're taking in all this information at a rapid pace. You know, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the textures, those are the givens. But you're
Mm-hmm.
also taking in the emotions of what's on that screen. And the funny part is that the reason why a lot of people cry at a sad movie in a movie theater is because their subconscious mind their conscious mind has been overloaded. Your subconscious mind is now open and watching this movie. The funny part is that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. It is why people cry when they watch movies. Because
What?
why else wouldn't they? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not just that they're so connected, it's that it's speaking to the subconscious mind. It doesn't know that it's not real. Why would you be crying over something that's so not real? Like Star Wars
Wow.
is a really good example. People cried at the end, you know, and I don't want to give anything away for somebody that might not have seen it, but they cried at the end. That's a fantasy movie from start to finish.
I don't think
People
it's
were
just,
crying.
it's not just because they're so moved by the storyline. I get moved by
Why
lots
are
of
you moved?
storylines. I
So why
cry
are
at
you
everything.
moved? Why are you
Oh,
moved?
oh no. I've been hypnotized in a movie.
Absolutely. Every time you sit in a movie theater.
You're changing my world right now.
Mhm.
You change my world all the time.
Just a better perspective, that's all.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so interesting too that the subconscious mind doesn't determine also. I mean, I guess that it all makes sense because the thoughts that you replay in your head and the emotions attached to them, your subconscious can't determine between those emotions having been in the past and having been in the present now. Every time you think about them and you rethink of that pain, you're re-traumatizing your brain or you're re-experiencing whatever those feelings were. So make them positive, people. But that's not usually what we're replaying over and over in our brains.
No, no, because we have a negative bias, right? So you have
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight. And fight or flight being survival. At its base level, it's survival. So you're always instinctively looking for fear, for negative, for something that's going to threaten your survival. It's not that you are negative, it's that you are just stuck in survival.
Mm.
Your trauma in your body is saying, I need to survive. I'm going to now look out for anything and everything that's going to hurt me and find a way to survive it. So the body, of course, is holding all those traumas. You're seeing things in a negative light, no matter what it is, and you're seeing it through your perception of years of patterns. And all you're trying to do is survive. The difference is that when those feelings erupt, it's because the body's trying to catch up. It's trying to express the trauma. And everybody goes, oh no, that's just something. That's just this. They start justifying it instead of really looking at it and going, okay, wait a minute. Why does it keep coming up? That's why talk therapy isn't as successful as it should be. Not that I'm not against talk therapy. I definitely think everybody needs somewhere to vent.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens then? Now you're re-traumatizing yourself in therapy.
Right.
That's
And
fun.
that's not even something they address in therapy. It's interesting because I think, especially in terms of therapy, in terms of getting your problems out, like talk therapy is a great place to start. Like if you're not talking to anyone, absolutely start there. If you're not moving
Jump
your
in.
body, yeah, if you're not moving your body, like, and you want to go for a run because you think that's going to help, absolutely start there.
Mm-hmm.
But to
Mm-hmm.
me, that we tend to be very focused on these very base level ideas of how to help ourselves because people know they kind of help. But I desire to expose more people to these other ways of helping ourselves, both mind, body, spirit, that have much longer and more lasting impacts, like hypnotherapy. Let's
Mm-hmm.
stop re-traumatizing and start healing from the depths of the subconscious. Like, isn't that really what you wish your therapist could do? That's what mine was.
We would think, well, well, yeah, but people think that, well, it's because it's fear-based, right? They're afraid I'm going to control their minds, or I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
make them, dance like a chicken and quack like a duck, and, uh, bark like dogs. I mean, I've heard everything, and it's because you have stage hypnotists,
Yeah.
rightfully so, doing their thing, and they're very good at it.
Hmm.
But that's not what hypnotherapy really is. And like you said, healing those traumas that are beneath just talking about it. You're not going to get there in a conscious state. That doesn't work because that's not where they're housed.
Hmm.
They're not. They're housed much deeper than that. And like you said, you are re-traumatizing yourself. So whether it's psilocybin, whether it's ketamine, whether it's hypnotherapy, they all fall in breath work, Reiki. You can keep going. It doesn't matter. Mindfulness, meditation, those are all very transpersonal ways to change, to grow, to improve who you are, and not stay in that minutia of, I'm just going to keep regurgitating my problems until they go away. And funny, I've been here 5 years and I paid $10,000 and my problems are still the same.
Hmm.
Well, why? And we can blame Freud. It's fine. We can blame Freud for both sides of it, the sitting and talking over and over and over again, and kind of, giving and I'm sorry, his more narrow view of hypnosis, out of his own personal fear of
Yeah.
lack of being able to pull it off. So,
Yeah.
but thank you, Freud.
I think one of my favorite things that you've helped me do, I mean, I should really be in love with the healing of the traumas, but my personal favorite is the time that you hypnotized me to not like ice cream anymore. Because, which I need you to send me that again. I've lost it. It's like not saved
Okay.
somewhere. But I have a severe battle with eating ice cream. And lots of people seem to think that's okay, but it's very not okay when you're eating like a pint every other day. And, it's milk. It's so many processed sugars. There's gluten in the one I love. Like I'm not eating I don't love healthy ice cream. I try. It's not the same.
Yes, it's not about the same.
Yeah. So I love that and it was wildly effective for a really long time for me. And you ended up attaching it to my least favorite thing in the entire world. So that when I would think of ice cream, I would instead be overwhelmed with the idea of olives, the smell of olives,
That's
which are
right.
my least favorite thing in the entire world. And that was, while I didn't reach for ice cream after that and be like, olives, I did reach for ice cream and be like, I don't need it. Something about me is just like, no,
Great.
no thanks.
Right. Super subtle.
It was very
It's
subtle.
super subtle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you also explained to me too that overwhelming situations after that can sometimes break those back down. So for me, I ended up moving, and I hadn't moved in like 7 years. So it was a very big deal to pack up my whole apartment and move. And while I moved, I was so stressed, I got back on the ice cream. And
It's a coping mechanism.
it was. That's my favorite.
It's coping. It's funny that those types of things could be coping mechanisms. They can also be reward based, meaning that you probably learned something along those lines of ice cream copes at a young age. We all know, like, if you behave, we'll go get ice cream. So ice cream's a tough one because of that, but because may have a childhood nostalgic connection, it may have a reward attached to it. So, when you reinforce it constantly, that's something, when you reinforce the positive, like you've already said, you need to resend that to me. That's your subconscious going, it's there. I just need to be reminded. And yes, I would gladly do that for you. But yeah, no, that was interesting. I forgot what I attached it to.
Olives.
But I mean, attaching it to something you don't like is really great. So trying to push, imagine your mind is split down the center, and one side is pain and one side is pleasure. more in a positive, negative state. So we took the pleasure of eating ice cream and pushed it over to the negative of the dislike of olives,
Mm-hmm.
and okay, it's sitting here, but if it's attached to reward, which we would have to have a longer conversation to figure out, then we can change it again. And ultimately it will morph into, I just don't eat ice cream. I just don't eat it. Yeah. So
I haven't been eating it lately. I've stopped
that's good.
stopped the cream. It's my favorite drug. It's not true.
Well,
It's not my favorite drug, but it's one of them. It's up there.
Well,
Now, have you been hypnotized?
oh, many times, many times.
Was that part of like your schooling to become a hypnotherapist?
Of course, we, you can't do something you don't know how to do.
Yeah, fair.
But, so you spend quite a bit of time in and out of hypnosis. And it's an interesting transformation. It's so subtle, like the ice cream, that you don't realize that things all of a sudden are shifting, where things that have, activated, parasympathetic response, like, doesn't do that anymore, because when you're spending time in hypnosis, it slows down the speed that things come at you. It also allows for room, because whether you realize it or not, you're adjusting that pain pleasure slide scale. Where you are pushing things maybe that you subconsciously want to work on over into the area that they need to be correctly put in. Huge changes in people. This isn't a 4-day program. It's a commitment. There's actually 2 years involved, and a lot of work. And you spend a lot of time in and out with some of the greatest hypnotists, around. They do this, they live it, and you become just like that, because you feel so good in hypnosis. And when you get out of hypnosis, it's one of those things where you're like, I need to keep going. I need more of this. This feels like my authentic self, because it's not cluttered with the negative input from the outside.
Right.
So it's quite fascinating. So many hours.
Yeah, what a great state to be in. And then am I correct that you have sort of steered your focus or your specialty into relationship work?
General, being relationships of how we respond and how we take in information, how that then changes your relationship with yourself, and then outward, because, of course, the most important relationship we have is with ourselves. You have to have that relationship where you actually understand you before you can go and understand somebody else and what is coming at you. So the relationship is with yourself. And then you can build outward. And it doesn't matter whether it's a friendship, a love interest, a business venture. It doesn't matter. And knowing what and how you take in information and how you give out information and what other people are really saying, that will change the trajectory of your relationships. The ones that you might think, let's take a friend relationship, and they're saying things to you, and you realize how they're saying them. It changes how you take it, right? Because you know where they're coming from. You will also know if you will tolerate it anymore.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Because you've changed, so the world around you changes.
Sorry, my Alexa got triggered. Alexa, stop.
I have that habit, by the way.
She's always listening.
Listening, I know. Some days she's the only one that listens to me.
Right?
Clearly she likes relationships.
She does.
But yeah, so that relationship and the theory that it works under, it changes. It changes who you are.
Yeah.
But that's what you ultimately want. So
right. I mean, and that's the point of doing the work is to start radically changing who you are, to show up better for yourself, to show up better for others, to get rid of what might feel like a mediocre existence or a life devoid of happiness, and to find that place that when your thoughts aren't running away with you, when your traumas aren't being triggered every day, when you're not in fight or flight and your parasympathetic nervous system can relax, life's pretty good. No matter what your circumstances are, when that stuff subsides, everything else is pretty tolerable.
Well, there's two statements that changed my life when I was in HMI. The first one was, feelings aren't facts.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between emotions and feelings.
Ooh, what's the difference between emotions and feelings?
Theory is, there's different ideas. My personal one is feelings are a physical manifestation of an emotion. So it's your body trying to express something. Feelings, and the best way to explain it is, you can have a really great life and you can be happy, but today you could feel like shit. And that's okay. It's okay. Feelings aren't facts. They come and they go. They don't ever stick around. It's the emotion that sticks around. And if the emotion is then a negative one, then that's where we need to start looking. Because feelings, they come and go. They're fluid. They're like money. Comes and goes. So.
Interesting. Yeah. Because like today, it's not my finest day. I've been having a lot going on today. And so I've been like a stress case all day. And like my friend who drove me to get my car was like, hey, just remember, like, the car thing cost under $1,000. Like it's okay. Like, hey, I dropped you off and picked you up. Like it's okay. Hey, you go.
Could have walked there.
Right. There's all these, and I'm like, yes, you're right. There's all these reasons to be, life is good today. Sure. I'm just stressed in the moment. Stress is the feeling of the day.
Right. Stress is a feeling. It's also a response. It's letting you know that maybe there's a reason that's a little deeper than just a feeling. Like, what's this really triggering for you? And if I don't stop now, I'm going to turn this into a hypnosis session. So what's that really feeling? Like, where does that come from? Does it come from lack or control? Usually it's control.
It came from control. Yeah. Because this morning, I mean, I'm very open on this podcast, so if it, can turn into whatever it is. But I, woke up this morning and I was like, okay, I'm going to get up super early so that I can prepare this work for my assistant before he starts, because he usually starts around 8 a.m. And I was going to go surf at 8 a.m. and I didn't have his work prepared for the day. So at 5 a.m., my alarm's going off. At 5:40, I'm awake and I look at my phone and he's decided to clock in at 5 a.m. today. And I'm like, shit, like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to do this one task. And I'm like, I didn't even give you the info. Don't do that. Okay, shit. And now, so I'm immediately straight out of bed, like, crap, my plan to get ahead has immediately been foiled.
Immediately been foiled.
Immediately.
It's done.
And then
it's
so foggy, we can't go surf. And so then I'm like, I've got all this stuff to do. Fine, I'll do that, and then the car guy's like, it's going to be under 500. And then I get there and it's like 550, and he's like, oh, I forgot about tax and all that. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
You're right. All of these little elements of like, how do I control? And my friend who was driving me kept being like, did you ask him what was wrong with it? Did you ask him what the price was? I was like, I asked him if it'd be under 500. He said, yes. He's like, what was wrong with it? I was like, I don't know. He'll tell me when I get there. Like, and he was asking me for more information. I'm like, I don't have it. I was trying to not care.
Right. You were trying not to care. You were trying control, not control. You trying to control. So you're vacillating between the two, right? And The basic thing is so simple. You forgot to just ground yourself into who you are. Because you're not that person. You're the person. You're not. Where's your intention coming from? Is it up here, or was it down here? When you get up here, that's when we get a little kooky. Like,
that's where I felt like my intention
ego
was coming.
sensation. Right. So ego, I'm going to control it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to force it to work out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you took a deep breath and just let it kind of drop all the way down, instantly, you're going to feel your shoulder come down. Maybe you're high stress, high strung, right? So you're going to have to do that a couple of times. But if you could just pinpoint light, like a laser beam, okay, it starts here because this is where the stress is. It's up here in this area. And just try and breathe in. And then as you exhale, drop that light all the way down into the belly, or as far down as you're comfortably pulling it. You might find that the answer is different. The response would be different because your intention would be coming from somewhere else. Wouldn't be conscious, crazy, kooky, I'm going to control everything. Overload. Yeah. And that's the other thing. That was overload for you.
By the time my friend picked me up, I was like, my shoulders are up in my ears. I feel it. I need to get them down. He was like, I can help. I was like, please put them at my ankles.
You need to breathe. You need to breathe. Because ultimately that's what's happening. You could do breath work. You could do, 13 breaths. And, it's the whole I am, I love, keep going. You can do a mindfulness. You can do the seed of your intention. Like, these are all things that are part of hypnosis, really. These are all things that work towards being in that state of awake, centered, grounded, untriggered, unactivated. That's where I think everybody's really working towards, especially considering this COVID world, post-COVID world that everybody's living in, who have been living literally in a state of fight or flight. For how long has this been going on now? Since 2019?
I think we started 2020.
Okay. So for the last 2 years, the collective, and I mean this in every way, the collective has been to live in fight or flight, of some low grade to high grade fight or flight. So it's not a good place to be living in. You're dropping cortisol all day long.
I like that. Dropping cortisol all day long. What do a lot of clients come to you for? What do you find to be some of the common themes?
Anxiety. It seems to be my wheelhouse. The anxiety, the control of how do I fix it. It's some depression, a lot of it, self-confidence, self-assurance, self-esteem. But those are all connected.
Right.
Because we're all connected. So I seem to get a lot of that.
One of my favorite things that you're super knowledgeable on that I'm probably going to botch describing is like the two different ways that we show up in relationships. There's like the Emo and the Phys. What is this based on? I try to explain it to my friends. I'm really bad at it, but what are the two ways that we show up in relationships? Am I phrasing that right?
Yeah, this is how we show up, as an emotional or a physical. So like I said earlier, that is created by primary and secondary caregiver. However you see them. Dad could be a primary. Uncle could be primary if he's the one taking care of you. It doesn't matter. Just the person you see as primary caregiver, giving you life and security and food. Secondary is showing you how to behave in relationships. So one is an emo and one is a Phys. Those are your only two options. This is not Myers-Briggs. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but side note, when you start delving into Myers-Briggs, you have all these components, but that's not how your subconscious is seeing information. And remember, your subconscious is the one actually controlling the show. So how you show up is either an emotional or a physical. A physical is somebody that has all their feelings on the outside. And their biggest, and their core value is family, relationship, family, job, then hobbies. That's a physical person. They take information in very literally. Move the box? Okay, they move the box. Can you move the boxes? They'll move all the boxes. And emotional is somebody with their feelings on the inside, and you're probably laughing because you're seeing yourself in some of these.
I'm totally a Phys.
So emotional. Yes, you are. So the emotional is somebody with their feelings on the inside. So, and that is somebody that wants control. Somebody that needs to put their body between their emotions because they need to keep their emotions safe and in control. They're very heady. Their core traits really are job, career first, not family. It's job, career, then friends, then significant others / extras, and then it's family. So you can see the difference in the two. Mostly the most important part is how they take information. So when a physical takes this information, the way they take it is literal. The way an emotional takes the information is an inference. So can you, perhaps you want to move those boxes, is way different than take those boxes outside.
Right.
So if I'm an emotional and somebody says to me, take those boxes outside, I'm going to say, maybe I don't want to, and where would you want them once I take them outside? Better analogy is if I'm the emotional and somebody says, oh, your hair looks great today, I would assume you're telling me my hair looked like crap yesterday.
Oh, how interesting that gets interpreted. Interpreted.
Yeah. So, when you are now in a relationship, so you are not 100% of anything, but you're going to fall on one side or the other in the majority. And if you're a physical, your greatest fear is rejection.
It's totally me.
If you're an emotional. And if you're
we can talk about me, by the way. You can tell all my secrets. I don't care.
Well, so if you're an emotional, your fear is loss of control, loss. So you have these two things fighting each other constantly. And when it comes down to a relationship in this EMP world, emotional and physical, you need to learn how to speak to each other. You need to learn how they are actually meaning what they're saying. When I speak very literally, very directly if I'm in a relationship, except for my mother was an emo. So because I have some trauma there, I've built a defense to the emo. So I have an emo defense, meaning I will protect myself like an emo. I will close in, even though I'm super Phys, I will protect myself. So on that scale, my numbers in my suggestibility, how I take information in, are pretty basic, even 50-50. I can take in information like a physical or an emotional.
Interesting.
But my sexuality, meaning my behavior in a relationship, is super high Phys, which most people don't see unless they really, really know me. Super high Phys, meaning I literally hate rejection to the point where I won't even put myself in the situation where there's rejection. because
Really?
it's safer here. Yes,
I would
yes,
have never guessed
yes.
that about you.
Well, well, it's part of the process, right? It's part of the work. When
Hmm.
I got so here's the little fun part is when I got to HMI, and still currently, when I am at HMI, people think I'm this huge emo. And when you get up there in the emo numbers, you become, intellectual emo where you're very focused, closed, like you're always wearing black, you're this, you're that. You're very serious and academic and scholarly, blah, blah, blah. And everybody
Yeah.
thinks that. And then when graduation day came and a little tidbit of information, they played Prince, I turned into the Uber Fizz and was dancing around, and literally I was watching people's faces go, wait a minute, I thought she was an emo. Like she's never been like that before. No, you just didn't see me that way because I have that, vacillating suggestibility where I'm sitting somnambulistically in the middle. I can take in and give out and speak to both sides. So when
Mm.
you aren't those things and you fall high on a scale, it depends. So if you're in a physical and you're in a relationship with an emotional, you're hearing it through your little fizzy ears that want to reach out and go, please do not reject me. I can't hear it. I can't even take it. And they may not be rejecting you. They might just need what they need. Emotionals need more space. Emotionals show love by action.
Mm.
By action. What are they
Uh,
doing for you? Not just, I love you, hearts and flowers, rainbows. That's what a fizz does. So basically, what I'm
shit.
saying is you cannot expect somebody to automatically know how you're going to see them. You have to tell them, and you have to listen and know who they are. So when you take these two, Fizz and Emo, and you have no knowledge of, hey, I need A, B, and C to be loved, okay? They may not be able to do that because of who they are. But what are they actually doing that shows that they love you? It's not just you as the Fizz going, I need this, and then they should step two. Maybe what they're doing is the way they love you.
Hmm.
And knowing that cuts some of the hurt. Then it becomes, okay, do we want to work on this together to understand how we both speak in this world so that I can correct? Like, I'm doing this because I love you. That
Hmm.
might be the ultimate answer for a Fizz from an emo. But to get the emo to say that, dear Lord, emo, it's like pulling teeth. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, if I say it, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose control and they might leave. And I don't want them to know that I even care that much because I need to protect my feelings. I mean, how many people did I just describe to you by that analogy?
Lots of them that I've dated,
If you're a
that's for
Fizz, you
sure.
know all of them. There you go. So, and you automatically, like Paula Abdul and the cat said, opposites attract. So, you have to remember that it's the opposite of you, which means they're not going to love you the way you're going to love them. And they won't even
Hmm.
know how to love you or speak to you or have a relationship with you because why would they? Do you know how to speak to them? Do you know how to love them the way they need to be loved? So
Clearly
that whole
not.
EMP theory, right. So you can be an introvert and an extrovert and still be an emo. You can show up in different ways. I'm talking about the way you take in information and the way you spit it back out
Hmm.
and how those two can coexist. Friend, lover, sister, mother, wife, it doesn't matter. You still need to know how to hear people, return the information in a way they can hear it. It gives you the leg up, really, in the relationship. So,
Yeah, and that's like
long story
great
short.
communication skills. And I see that reflected not just in my many failed attempts at dating, but my friendships as well. I can pinpoint, oh, that friend's an emo. I can see where they're doing their emo thing at me. I can think of two of them, but I won't rat them out right now. But also for me specifically in dating, tell me where do I know I'm a Phys, but I'm like a high ranking Phys.
You're a Phys with an emo defense.
Right. Which is it's like I hired a military or something.
Oh, you can borrow my military. It's fine.
They're great at building walls.
I like to refer to it as my straitjacket. It's my emo straitjacket, because if you imagine being a Phys, your whole purpose in life is not to be rejected. But chances are, if you have an emo defense, you have been rejected, either by probably your primary caregiver. And I hate to blame moms, but they don't know any better. It's no rule book. I'm not blaming mom. It's not her fault, like, because I'm that mom too, but there's no rule book. We just do the best we can. But our children kind of build a defense to that. So if you have an emo mom, and that means that she's probably not uber affectionate, and you're a Phys, as a kid, remember, you're that little narcissist kid, because we're all narcissistic as children. You want love. And damn it, why aren't you giving it to me right now when I want it? I want the hug. I want it now. I need physical. I need physical. I need physical.
Right.
Oh, you're not going to give me physical? Huh. Okay. So then the Phys gets mean. They get quiet. They get pouty, and they storm off because that's a physical action. But now they're not going to let anybody do that to them again, because now they're terrified of the rejection. So they have to self-soothe in whatever way they can. And then you have that emo defense of, oh, my primary caregiver wouldn't give me love that I needed. So is anybody going to ever love me that way? Because I learned that literally.
Right.
So you create that defense. So anytime somebody even looks like they're going to reject you, straitjacket comes up, the military comes out, the walls are all built, and you're safe. Because now the emo wrapped around tight blanket of comfort and security that you created as a child is now wrapped around you, holding you safe. And be sure that the military is standing on alert, high alert, DEFCON 5. Like, if it even looks like rejection, not only am I going to freak out, but I'm going to back up behind my walls.
Yeah.
So that's, the most outrageous Phys answer to a defense that I've ever said, but
it feels accurate for what my defenses have done in recent days. So that's
but the opposite is possible. An emo can come up with a Phys defense.
Really?
There are cultural, they can. Their defense is, more like, I don't want to be anywhere near that. That's like my mother. My mother was a Phys, or I see my mom as secondary. My dad is primary. My dad was, it gets a little confusing when you start stacking them up like that. Yes, emos can get a physical defense. Emos also can turn into, very easily, they can pull out this fizziness of themselves, where they appear to be very physical, to grab a hold of that physical person that really wants that physicalness.
Yeah, and you tell me this is what happens to me.
It is what happens to you. They reel you in. They got you on the line. The fish is hanging there. You're the fish, by the way. And you're on their physical pole. This is bad. This is going to be a bad one. You're on their physical pole. You're still a fish, not a person.
Got it.
Got you there. You can't go anywhere because you're thrilled. You have finally found another Phys that speaks your language. No. That's just an emo getting your attention. Because the minute it goes into anything serious, the emo goes, wait a minute, hold on. This is a lot. I might lose control. Even though I appeared to be very fizzy to get your attention, that's not 100% who I am. I really want to go back to work where it's safe and I can control everything. Because I'm a big chicken too. I'm just a different kind of chicken. Like, I mean, I could keep going with the funny analogies because, you know, this is what I do. But really, honestly, everybody's just so terrified and they don't know how to communicate in an effective way to realize who you are, what your needs are, and what you need to say to get somebody else to give you some fulfillment of a relationship that's reciprocal. It's not just one-sided.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to scare them off. And Physes are known to scare off emos.
I scare them off all the time.
Because it's this big fizz that's coming at them like, I need love, attention, physical, yes. And here you are, you emo pretending to be physical. So we're a match. And now, bestie, that I've got my claws in you, you're going to show me physically how you love me. And they're going, whoa, that was a way bigger fish than I thought I was catching.
Yeah, like the fish pulled them overboard. Now they're a wet cat.
Pretty much, that's what you did. And now they're a wet, this is getting so much better. And a cat is such a good analogy. Yes, they're the wet cat. And now they're like freaking out and they're trying to get out of the water back into the boat.
This got really good.
You're done. You're done. You're completely done. So now they pulled themselves back. The cat has pulled themselves back in the boat, you know, trying to dry off their fur to regain their composure. And you're still in the water now wondering what happened to your cat.
With a hook in me.
So many,
I'm bleeding everywhere.
With the hook.
Yeah.
You're right. And you're bleeding and it's horrible. And where did my person go?
Right.
Well, they ran. They ran because you came too over the top. Because you weren't paying attention to the very subtle signs. And the very subtle sign was like, let me see. Yes, they reeled you in, but the sign is when you come forward, you have to stay there. There's a stop sign. Stop. Do not go. Do not enter. Because if you do, it's on your own risk. You can't go any further. That emo came all the way forward to get you. And you said, oh, you're here? Let me run right over you. I'm over here now.
Yeah.
And here they are. And now here you are. And you want to go like this. You want to keep going, running over them, running roughshod over their boundary, their innate boundary. They're going to keep doing this. But if you stay here, I promise you, they have to come out of their emo-ness and come forward.
Right.
They may never squish up against you, but they'll get really, really close. Because if you keep going, okay, I like it. I'm not going to bother you today. I know you're there. I'm not going to call you, because then they go, oh, why aren't they paying attention to me? And then naturally they come forward. And it's not the game. It's not cat and mouse. It's not cat and mouse. It's not some manipulative game. It's giving the person what they need. Mm-hmm. It's a dance. It's not a game.
I like dance because no one really wants to play games, right? And that's, I think where I know where I'm always trying to come from is like, I don't want to have to play this game of like, I can't text you because I talked to you yesterday and I haven't heard from you today, so I shouldn't text you. Maybe you want space. Like, that's a whole game in my head. But you're trying to tell me I should think of it more like a dance. Like,
dance.
I'm not very good at dancing.
Everybody can learn something new.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think of it just as a simple box step, somebody's got to lead. Mm-hmm. You got to let the emo lead. Even though
always let the emo.
The Phys wants to lead. They want to drive the car. They want to steer the boat.
I love driving boats.
They want to lead. I mean, well, it is a thing.
Yeah.
You want that, right? Because you're just so over the top with it. But the reality is You have to let the emo lead. Follow their lead. When they go back, you stand still. Cement shoes. Do not go forward. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You do not get that yet. Pay attention. They back up because they need it, because they need
Yeah.
the control. You're not giving them control of you. You're letting them have control of them while you control yourself. As hard as that's going to be.
Which is why we're all trying to be in hypnotherapy.
Well, I mean, it's true. You're trying to basically handle yourself. And it's hard. It's really hard to do this dance.
Yeah. You've been working with me on it for
knowing.
Yeah, for like 2 years now. You've been working with me on it. I still feel bad at it. And I still forget every time that, not that everyone's a wolf in sheep's clothing, but that I am a very hard fizz until you threaten, me getting super hurt. And then, but that an emo is usually the one showing up to catch me. And I'm always trying to tell you that he's a fizz. I'm telling you he's a fizz. Tina, he's a fizz. And you're like, absolutely not.
How many times have we done that one? That one to me is my favorite with you. When you're like, no, he's a fizz. He's a fizz. I'm
like literally every time.
No physical.
And then you're just like, give him some space. You stop coming forwards. And then it's like within a few weeks, I'm like, damn, he was an emo. He was an emo the whole time.
That is your statement, by the way. He was an emo the whole time.
He was an emo.
He was.
Shit.
He was the emo the whole time. And, they're playing. That's the thing. Emos play the game better than we do.
Yeah. And like all the fizzes get together and we're like, why can't it just be easy? Wouldn't it be easy if I was dating you? I'm not attracted to you, but it would be easy, right? Like,
well, that's the problem with two fizzes is one is not attracted to the other because one is more vain than the other.
Oh,
sorry. Sorry. And vain being, there could be a variety of things you could be vain about. I'm not talking about just looks. It could be something else. And fizzes are typically a little more vain. There's nothing wrong with it. But that's why two fizzes typically not 100% anything, people, before they slip out on me. It's not 100% on anything anywhere ever on the planet Earth. But typically two fizzes will fizz out of each other and they'll be like, I can't even handle you. Two emos though? Two emos could cohabitate.
Really?
Yeah, you're just going to find one sitting on one side of the couch and the other one sitting on the other side of the couch, and they're both reading their different books, and they're thrilled because nobody's bothering them and pestering them, and they can get up and go to work, and they don't have to show love or affection. Basically, they're in a relationship with themselves. As someone once told me, I usually have the emos bagged and buried in the backyard before anything else. And no, I don't. They're just really easy to identify. They're the ones in the back of the club. And I think this was the first analogy I ever gave you was you can always tell an emo. They're the ones out with their friends at the back of the club, looking at their phone, wondering how much longer they have to endure all these physical people jumping around on top of the bar having fun when they'd rather be reading a book.
Those are super hard emos though. Like emo end of this. Yeah. I know a few of them.
Yeah, they are. I mean, but the higher you are as a fizz, the higher your counterpart's going to be as an emo.
Oh shit.
Which is not something you would even probably go near, just, letting it out of bag here, because they're not usually as physical as you. Right. Literal physical movement action.
Right.
So that's why it's uneven. And then you get close, so they come up this high and they're really uncomfortable and they shoot back down. I mean, bring it back down a little bit. But you would need it is movable. So if you got with the emo, let's use you as the example today. You're here, the emo's here. The emo's got to come all the way up to catch your attention. They drop all the way back down and you go chasing after them. But if you could actually sustain some middle ground with them, bringing down your fizz a little bit, and they'd be willing to stay somewhere here. It
Please.
would be a good, yeah, I know. It would be a match because it would bring down your phys side where you're not going like, you know, I'm going to surround you. You're mine. This is my friend, and I'm not letting them go, image.
Yeah.
And I can only say this because I've done these things, so it's fine. It's
I'm
fine.
sure I have too.
Now I just employ the emo straitjacket and wait. I try to be in a relationship. Here's the funny thing is when you learn all these things, you then start to maneuver your wants and needs. Like, okay, I got to tone this down, and then this comes up, and it becomes this now mental game, and I have to employ that emo defense in order to pull it off because the phys doesn't think that way. They, and it's part of it. It's the dance. Like, okay, so.
Right. Well, yeah, you perfectly described what I do, which is build the wall with the entire military, and then they're all up top, like ready to shoot anybody who comes close. Like once I've decided that there's potential serious amounts of pain in this for me, it's like, nope, done. I'm done before you can hurt me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm outwardly done while I inwardly lick the wounds for weeks. It's fine. Not you.
Or months.
That's a phys.
Or months.
Well, okay. I wasn't going there, but just from experience, somebody that is a phys like that can get stuck there. Not saying that you would. I don't see you like that, but some physes get stuck in the wounded part of them, and they can't get out without a lot of processing of grief. Really working those stages of grief, and sometimes that's the only way out for them because they won't accept it.
I've seen that.
The plight is hard for a phys.
Yeah, I've seen that happen to a couple friends of mine, especially in recent times. Just getting really stuck in that this one person hurt them, and now they're in grief that is not going away. How is there a way that we can shake those people, or kindly, lovingly shake them, or do they have to shake themselves? What?
Well, they have to be willing. First of all, it depends on how long it's been. It's not something you would do out the gate. People need to feel their feelings, but when they start ruminating and living in the wound, you can hypnotically go through the stages of grief in one session.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
You gotta really you have to want to get through it. I have had a few clients where they're just really stuck in that, can't get over a very long-term relationship. And they are physes, and they're not depressed. That's not it. They just can't get out of the rejected feeling. And really, for me, I've done all this work with them, and I know where their self-confidence is. I know where they're not walking around depressed. They're not sad like that. They just can't move forward. They're lost in place. Literally lost in place. Like they don't know where to go next because they're stuck in that rejected phys. And we can work hypnotically the stages of grief so that they can kind of review it in a way of, oh, right, it wasn't all my fault, because most physicists think it's all their fault. It wasn't all my fault. I did do this right, and I can get through it. And there is, at the end of the road, maybe, there is hope. And that's basically what we want to give people, is the hope. The hope of change and self-assurance. And sometimes the path there is a zigzag. And, it's okay. And you get them to this point and then go back and rebuild all the positive and flood them with the positives of, of who they are, really, focusing on their strengths, not their weaknesses, and getting them to reconnect when they're a Phys. They got to really reconnect with their people, the people that fill them with joy and bliss and fill and speak to their soul, because that's what they're looking for.
And so if someone wanted to work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, there's always my website. It's
Which is?
Teen Orlando Hypnosis. Teen Orlando Hypnosis. So you don't even know, because, you just have this connection and it's fine. And there you can email me and we can go from there. And I usually, I do a 15, 20-minute consultation to figure out what it is you want to work on, and that's free. And then we go from there.
Cool.
And, I am absolutely available. I'm not big on social media.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm a little more into the real. Like, call me, call me, text me, email me. I will do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
To help. So
I love
that's
that
the
for you.
purpose, right? Is to give hope.
Yeah. And I hope anyone who's listening that needs that hope can see it in hypnotherapy. You are a beacon of hope for me. And I would like to thank you for continuously showing up for me. I appreciate you, and you're a valued member of my team who I love and adore. So.
Oh, well, thank you. It's just about holding a really great vision for everyone that comes my way. And that's all I want, is if I can help them, give them hope, if nothing else, it's more than what they're going to get somewhere else, or else they wouldn't have called me.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for...
I am grateful for your time.
I'm grateful for yours. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to share you with the world. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and review this podcast wherever you're listening. I'm so grateful to have you on this journey with me. Until next time.